Appears to be working. Yes, video. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah, there's other things I wanted to get done and do and with videos, but I guess I'm just going to make a response video of sorts. Just a counterbalancing video. Professor Anton has made another video to Matt, and it's actually not that bad a video in the sense that he's pretty much making the argument or conceding the argument that material forces are causing everything, just about. There's no real evidence of anything not being caused by some material force. Every pebble that rolls down a mountain doesn't roll down the mountain of its own volition. And we don't do anything we do by anything called our own volition, in the sense that the cause is built into a bunch of pebbles rolling around in our brain, and they bang into each other, and we do things. But it's caused. Pebbles from decades ago are, I've said this before, but they're bouncing around in there. Events that happened decades ago are still roaming about inside my brain, little recordings of them, and they bang into something that happens today, and that bangs into something else. It becomes a bigger rock, and it bangs into, an expression, an effect that is my behavior. We're machines. So Professor Anton basically said we're not machines in the beginning of the video. But there's no way he can justify that. I don't think that there's any other way to look at it. We're like all the rest of the things. We're just acting out. We're playing a role. We're role playing. We're not cats. We're not dogs. We're not wildebeests. We're not lions. We're not crocodiles. We can go down the list of all the things we're not. And we're not them because we're humans. And humans have their own little sack of tricks they can perform. Like all the organisms, we have our focus and our attention. And, Professor Anton's always big on this language thing, as if this is, as if it's an active force, again, not just a reflexive mechanism, a way of simplifying the complicated. And that's all our brain is doing, is reducing a bunch of crap into a single pile of crap. There's a million zillion little leaves right here, right? My brain is saying, okay, there's a lot of input. Oh, it's redundant. It's not terribly relevant. And relevant to what? Yes, the programming, which is just a bunch of desire, ambitions, and, clockwork maintenance. Feed me. And the rest of it is some sort of, addictive, a grander scheme, you could say, is the idea of a success, accomplishment, what's a better word for it? Ambition is, I think, a good enough word. So, yes, that's the distinct function, of us, is this ambition thing. We're more than just doing the feed me thing. And, we've turned that into this complete yourself thing by accomplishing this defined bigger picture thing of imagining ourselves doing this tomorrow, except in our Lamborghini, or whatever. But it's still just a bunch of programs, a bunch of instructions that play out in a very predictable, and often we're very predictable. There's all kinds of psychology that's kind of in the book, about what you can do to a child and create a certain adult by doing those things. So this isn't, there's no room for any bigger, story. We're playing out, a bug's life. Where yes, okay, it's more sophisticated in some factual, technical way. We do things more complicated. But is it really more, is it anything more than just a gratification in the end? Realistically. I'm just saying, obviously we could have an ambition to do something we call good in the world, cure cancer or something. We could be horny for that. We could say, well, that's something no other organism can do. But I mean, what is that made out of that's that much more dramatic than anything else other animals are capable of, in terms of a mother kitten taking care of her kids or something? A little toad. A little toad. Little toad. Little toad. Look, it's a little toad. They don't take care of their kids. But it's just a programmed device. It's just being a toad. It's, it doesn't have as many it doesn't have our sophistication, but again, it's just another example of used to be a fish. Okay, it's a fancier fish. It's a fish that can swim on the land. And so, we got that part, plus we can do this little extra bit. But let's say we have some sort of positive ambition. There's nothing spiritual about it. It's merely a acquisition of understanding. Yes, you acquire some reasoning capacity, and then you can recognize certain facts. I mean, I keep pointing out how, a child is a child is a child, and this "your" thing doesn't really mean anything to somebody who's really using their faculties. If they're using their logic skills, they can kind of recognize that the "your" part is just a bigotry. That's just complete subjective nonsense. That's like a favorite color or something. That just doesn't have anything to do with reality and the importance of the fact that there's something in need, and it needs nurturing, and it needs care, and it needs comfort, and all that crap. That crap exists in all the children, not just your children. And the "your" part, again, like I said, is just a bigotry. It's just that's a personal, as a failure of your psychology to match what you can understand to be the truth. That a snowflake is a snowflake is a snowflake. There's no special snowflakes. There's no special. There could be a special child in the sense that he's exceptional at something, but being exceptional in the fact that he's exceptionally yours, that's not an exceptional character attribute the child has. Again, that's just your mischaracterization of meaningful, relevant qualities. You're declaring something incredibly irrelevant relevant. And that's just a logical mistake. So anything that we do that's even admirable in terms of being altruistic and generous and all of that stuff still requires us to have a narrative, a story in our head that basically says that's how you successfully live life, is to honor that truth, to do justice to it, to be fair. So some notion of fairness, that that, you know, if you knew you were cheating in a contest, you would concede the cheat and rise above it. And, you know, because you would, the principle would be part of your successful accomplishment. You can't successfully do your humanness if you violate the principles of what you've decided to be honor and your dignity and all that stuff. Can't live with yourself, kind of thing. If you degrade or debase the what you know to be success and failure. Yeah, there's a point where I guess what I'm saying is that you grow up, and even though you would like to win, you know that if you cheat, the victory will be shallow. Where when you're younger, or, you know, more small-minded, it might just be about the prize money, and you wouldn't care. There'd be no telltale heart. There'd be no, you know, you would hear the floor say nothing but, good, we got the goodies. And you wouldn't hear something else, some other program saying, you know, you failed. And the fact that we care about any of that stuff, or the fact that that kind of psychology is part of our development, is just an attribute, or just a side effect of the evolution of us as an organism in a circumstance where we have a competition as social organisms. So we're a social animal, and we have a kind of contest between us, an alpha contest of sorts, where we derive a confidence through these kind of symbolic, circumstantial. It's kind of like the dogs, you know, becoming submissive, even without brutality, just by gesture. Confidence alone will put them in a submissive position. And it happens also with humans by this subtle language and by the lack of confidence. So that lack of confidence you would have because you think you might have cheated would be enough, let's say, to give you an insecurity and to make you incapable of fighting, having the strength to defend a position because you know it's a weak position, kind of a thing. But I'm just saying this is all built out of an organism that doesn't compete with itself in an all or nothing contest with others. It's a gang, and gangs have a hierarchy. Gangs need to have a structure. So we're evolved from a gang, not a hive, you know, not an ant farm or a beehive, or not that kind of strict social circumstance, but a community of organisms that has to have some sort of mechanism that makes them able to live with each other in kind of a constructive manner, where they do have different roles to play. Where, like a flock of birds, there's not really a different role they're playing, or a swarm of fish, or a swarm of something else. So anyway, but that's just all psychology, and we know that psychology is just like the material universe. It's a very structural thing. We know it's structure in the brains that are creating that behavior, that it's not coming from nothing. It's coming from something. It's coming from a programmed genetic mechanism, a structure. That's what makes a duck a duck. That's what makes other animals what they are, is structure. So we can't really play this game that we don't have brain structure. The Professor Anton sort of implies, because the brain is complex, therefore it's doing something different. And it's just doing the same thing. It's just, little pieces of stuff obeying simple rules, little pieces rolling down. There's just a lot of it inside of our brain. Lots of little pieces. Lots of little circumstances, small influences, events recorded that have created a disposition, and that's who we are. It defines our hill, defines what's capable of rolling down it, what our potentialities are going to be, and it's all built out of experience. So experience builds the hill that you are, the person, and puts all the stuff ready to roll down the hill, and then you play out the circumstance and what kind of vibrations you're going to hit. So yeah, you could be the same person in a different world, and your life will be quite different because you'll react to the different environment, stimulus, and all that kind of stuff. We could all just go back in our history and just say, well, what if you just change a couple of events and you're in a completely different place doing completely different things? Maybe. No, I mean, not completely. I guess that's the point. You're still not going to be, if you didn't train to be in your youth, you're not going to be a ballet dancer. You're not going to be this, you're not going to be that. So you're not going to rise above hair. Anyway, so yeah, it's just, everybody's just going to glorify their ambitions. I suppose that's all humans are capable of, is glorifying things, or they're just bigots, and they're bigoted towards an aggrandizing truth of their existence, their personal contribution, their uniqueness, some other kind of crap. And they just, even though logically the facts are there to recognize that you're just a machine, that a lot of what you define as cherishable or precious is just subjective rubbish. It's just, and I mean rubbish in the sense that it's not about the merit of the thing. It's just about the fact that you personally like a certain shade of gray, and that's your favorite shade of gray. So the important truth is that brains are sentient. The other humans do feel. There's really no. Every one of our impulses is just, so many of them, and let me put it that way, so many of them, our intuitions are just so wrong. But just this whole idea of escaping tragedy, when seeing somebody else have the shit hit their fan instead, and somehow, yes, we intuitively think, somehow that's the way it should be, because it sure shouldn't happen to me. I don't deserve that. And it's just, that's just a lack of our, that's a limiting element of our psychology, is the fact that we do live individual lives, and it's really hard to actually feel somebody else's pain, and so it gets very easy for us to live in the benefit of a more painless or less painful environment and not recognize that's not the reality, that life isn't doing what you're doing. Most of it's doing something very different, and likely something a lot less pleasant. Probably. But again, it's just hardware, and ultimately. I mean, hardware in the sense that it's all going to be forces in the end. It's all the Professor Anton used the word gravity, but they're all the forces are real. They're made of material things, in my opinion, and there's no escaping how they roll. It's a simple. The attributes are simple, but that's all you need to make complexity. You just need a few simple rules, 4 or 5 simple rules, and you can end up with complex shapes. There's probably lots of examples of that, where you could have just geometric objects, and you could roll them, into each other, and they would connect. You can imagine in very different configurations, and that if you had many of those things, you could see how those rudimentary connections could connect into some bigger, like a fractal, into bigger and bigger shapes, and that with some subtle changes in those shapes over nuance, 3 connect instead of 4, 5 connect, or 10 connect instead of 9, that you'd end up with very different patterns, and that we're just a collection of patterns. So, I'll leave it at that. But, I mean, all this woo about what's going on here, again, I think evolution solves, as a philosophical foundation, I don't think evolution gives you any grounds for anything magical and anything beyond our robotic ancestry. You can see that the parameciums are robotic. You can see that all the other mechanical organisms are on a scale of capacity to do more sophisticated behavior, but that it's all just behavior that comes from something, not from nothing, and that none of them are free to be anything else. They're not free. Frogs aren't free to be birds. Birds aren't free to be elephants. I mean, there's no freedom. There's no, and certainly no freedom to be outside of a cause. If a frog is going to be a bird, there's going to be causes. There's going to be something that glues the wings on. It's not going to just happen. There's no just happen. And if there was just happen, it wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with anything coherent to purpose or function. So what good would it be? Just happen isn't going to get you anywhere, realistically. And yeah, I think that's probably enough. Yeah, I just want, it's just, so that, I think that's like the first. So, I mean, all these side questions, people make this so much more complicated than it needs to be. Again, you argue about determinism, and the real, the real argument is point to a free. There is no free anything. So why are we worrying about determinism? Because there's no alternative. The alternative is ludicrous. The alternative doesn't make any sense as a thing. There's no free in this universe. There's no such thing as a free. None of this stuff is free. None of it. The molecules around, nothing is free. It's a stupid word. Free is when you take this fence off of this tree. Then you freed it. You've taken the bindings away. But it's all there are. There are bindings. And there's some bindings you can take away and some you can't. It's just the truth. But there's no free. So, oh, whatever. I mean, there's no, you know, it just all gets, yeah, it ends up just being redundant because nobody pays attention. You know, I mean, can we just concede that there's really no rational alternative to determinism? Because there's no rational origin for any kind of free volition? Free from what? Logic? Free from good reason? Free from an accomplishment to you know, to accomplish? Free from what? Free what? It's all so silly. So anyway, till the next time and such. From beautiful Inmendham. Yeah, this is Inmendham. All around here, all of this is Inmendham. This is only a part of Inmendham. But it is the conscious part here. This part is conscious. So I said they keep just extrapolating. Okay, we can find magic in our lives if we say, our brain is connected to that little cloud over there. It's connected to my brain, and therefore my brain is special. How's it? Huh? How's it make it special? How's it make it more valuable in some way? Huh? Oh yeah, rhetorical questions. Alright, anyway, until next time. Little rabbit. There's no rabbits where I live because, of course, the cats won't permit them. But so, don't see rabbits too much except for down here. So anyway, until next time.